So with that, I do want to give you a couple of updates from the college. Since we met in August, we've had some changes. One of them being we have a new college president. And so our new college president is President John Temple. He has spent a lot of time in Central Florida, coming from K-12 education. If you haven't got to chat with him yet, he does put open invitations out to get temperature checks and feedback and ideation. And adjuncts, we are especially important to that conversation. We outnumber full-time faculty about 3 to 1. We do a lot to serve our students. We do a lot of the work of the work once our students are registered and have started. And so please know that he is authentic when he asks for your input or he wants your feedback. It's not lip service. He truly wants to know what we should be doing in your opinion and in your view in order to have the best possible education system in Florida. If you have seen here on the call, we have some deans here, but with that, we also have some shifts and changes in roles for some of our former executive directors and deans. And so Dr. Chris Sargent has moved from Dean of Workforce Programs to the AVP of Workforce Programs. And then we have Dr. Stephanie Luke, who came from being the executive director of our education program to now being our AVP of academic affairs. And so we continue to promote within as we have expanded and called for new roles as our programs continue to grow and our enrollment continues to grow. And so it's great that we're able to offer those roles to internal candidates that already understand our mission and our values and our needs here at the institution. And we have we have record enrollment. So if you have not been able to see the communication yet, this is another record enrollment for spring. We obviously had it in fall, but for spring as well over 7,000 students in spring. Last year at this time, we had 1,900 applications for new students in spring. This year for spring new students, we had over 3,000 applications, and then over 55% of them actually registered and enrolled in courses and started. And so that's huge. Again, we continue to be far and away the fastest growing institution in all of Florida. And so that is why we are so important as adjuncts. We provide the flexibility for the college to meet the needs of students that join us at the last minute or join us with the plan in mind that they're going to be here. But we allow us as an institution to be flexible. And with that, we have a great responsibility to ensure that students that are taking our course get the same exact quality of education as they would with a full-time faculty member. So we have big roles. Thank you, Dean Weber. 7,300 students, and they're not done yet. B term starts in another like 5 weeks, so it continues to keep going. The Department of Teaching and Learning, which I have the pleasure of representing here this evening, we are a new department that started at the end of last year, academic year. So really, we've been rolling out this year, and we are absolutely here to support you. So you've seen some initiatives like Adjunct Academy that is built just for us as adjuncts, and I will say us because I'm also an adjunct in the institution. I serve under Dr. Cummings' program, and so. With that, please know that you have full access to all of the resources that the college offers. Most of us have roles outside of part-time teaching, but we do have things like eGlass and podcasting stations, and we have a YouTube channel, and we have additional technology like VR and AR, and just know that you have full access to all of those resources, and you don't necessarily have to know how to use them. You don't have to know how the sausage is made. We are here to support you at the Department of Teaching and Learning. And so that takes us to what we're going to focus on this evening, and that is making sure that we have the capacity to use some tools to make sure that our courses meet the legal requirements. And so if you have missed my millions of emails, and I apologize for those emails, I try to only get data from you as we need data or to deliver information that is pertinent to our rules. But the Department of Education set out an initiative about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago at this point, where they said by April 24th, 2026, there were updates to Section 508, Title II, and ADA when it comes to public-facing institutions, and they had to meet certain accessibility standards. As an instructor, much of that didn't change what those standards were. However, some standards did change, but the emphasis on those accessibility standards is magnified. And so we need to absolutely make sure that our courses meet the legal requirements under those guidelines, because as instructors, we can be held accountable if we are offering courses or teaching a course that is not accessible. So yes, the institution can lose federal funding if we are in violation, but as instructors, we are also held accountable and could potentially be sued by a student if we are failing to offer accessible content, because that is what we are expected to do as educators per the Department of Education guidelines. Plus, it's just good teaching. We want to make sure, obviously, that our knowledge and our content is accessible to as many students as possible, to all of our students. And so it's just good teaching. So it is a big, huge elephant that you have to eat, right? When you look at our course and how do we make sure that it is all accessible. So we go back to the how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Over the course of the past 5 months, the institution heard faculty and heard adjuncts and said, this is a lot. I don't know where to begin. How do I begin? Is there something that can help me? And so the institution has invested in a tool called UDOIT from Cidi Labs. And UDOIT does a really nice job of running through your Canvas course and sussing out what is not quite accessible per the guidelines. And the guidelines that we follow are called WCAG, WCAG 2.1. And so there are specific standards in there, and then how do you remediate those issues? And so I'm going to model for you what UDOIT looks like and how to implement it in your course so that you can audit your own course and then remedy anything that might be wrong with it. But please know, again, this is not a set it and forget it, and now you're on your own. You are fully supported by the Department of Teaching and Learning, by your deans, by your managers. So everybody is here to help you suss this out, because we are absolutely all in this together to make sure that we are offering our courses in an accessible manner, again, by April 24th. So I'm going to share my screen here, and hopefully I won't lag too much. And again, I'm going to invite you to, I will lose sight of the chat to a degree. And so I'm going to invite you to unmute yourself, or if anybody else is willing to chime in if I do see something in the chat that I am ignoring. I'm not ignoring it on purpose. I'm just not seeing it. So please feel free to interject. But I would invite you to follow along on your computer and open up your Canvas and do as we are doing here so that you can figure out how this works and then ask your questions or break it, if you will, so that we can collectively try to overcome any barriers. And so you should see my webpage. I'm going to try to pull up that chat to the best of my ability so I can see anything that might come up. In your course, by default, we did not mess with your navigation menu. So I've just copied a junk course into a training shell here. What you're going to want to do is scroll down to the bottom of your navigation menu, and you're going to click on Settings. Once Settings come up, you're going to go to Navigation. This navigation is how we mess around with this navigation window here. Anything up top is visible to students and to you, and then anything down below is invisible. So by default, UDOIT is invisible. Students won't be able to see UDOIT regardless. But you're just going to come down to UDOIT, and then you're going to enable it, and then you're going to save. If you don't save it, it won't be enabled, so just click save. And then now we'll see UDOIT here in the navigation window. And so when we click on UDOIT, it's going to come up a little pop-up, and it's going to introduce me to UDOIT, and immediately begins to scan my course. And it's going to scan every page in my course. It's going to scan my links in my course, and it's going to scan my videos, my YouTube videos in my course to ensure that they have closed captioning ability. It, to a degree, will scan PDFs, and to a degree will scan Word docs and PowerPoint. It is not 100% on those, and so we do encourage you to use the other built-in tools for PDFs and Microsoft Word and PowerPoint when it comes to checking those. And I'll show you the YouTube channel that we have here in the end, and I'll share that in the chat with you. So if you're unfamiliar with how to do that, we'll make sure you have resources here by the end of our time together so that you are able to check those for accessibility. This is probably almost done. It doesn't take it very long to run through the courses. Generally, it is about 3 to 5 minutes and it's going to finish. While it's doing that, I'm going to point us into another direction here so that you're aware of other resources that we have at the college to support you. It's already been finished. When you go to our homepage, lssc.edu, if you scroll down to the bottom under current employees, this is going to take you to our SharePoint page, our internal website. Under the SharePoint, you can see different departments that we have at the college. I'll point you in the direction of the Teaching and Learning Exchange, Department of Teaching and Learning. And so in here, you'll find a lot of different resources to support you. If you are an online instructor, there's some information in there. We're talking right now about accessibility, so I'm going to click on Design for Course Accessibility. There are some checklists here to make sure that your course is accessible. Within that, there's also quick little, how do I rectify this, or how do I fix anything that is inaccessible? So there's great insight there. There's some UDOIT specific training. This is by Cidi Labs, the company that makes UDOIT, and there are some videos hosted by Cidi Labs. So there's additional training beyond what we're just talking about here, or additional resources beyond just what we are pairing up with and going over today. And this is all, again, in our SharePoint site under Design for Accessibility. And this was all put together by Dr. Morgan. If you have not met Dr. Morgan yet, she is our instructional designer, and she is pretty stinking amazing, and she is willing to help outside of normal business hours, just as I am. So just know that you've got support. I'm going to go back here to UDOIT. We'll come back to that later. It has finished, so I'm going to go ahead and skip this. I don't need to read this again. When I look at my course score, we want to go for green. We would love to be 100%. But we want to get in the green. Now, this just reviewed this course, and it said, hey, you're at 92%. That's great, but I have room for improvement. When I reviewed an actual course that I have taught before, it was at like 83%. It was nowhere near 100%, and it was like in this yellowish, almost green area. So I had a lot of work to do, and it took me about 35 minutes to fix everything, which isn't that time consuming, especially when now I know that my content is all accessible for all of my students. What I want to start with is high impact. When you click on high impact, this is where it starts to tell you problems that you have. So it scanned my images and it said, hey, all of your images have alt text. Great. Then it looked at my color contrast and it said, hey, you have 9 issues where your color contrast doesn't meet the 4.5:1 minimum standard. So it's going to guide me to those. Some of my pages, it says, don't have proper headings. Now, I felt like they did, but it is wrong. So it's going to guide me to those as well. It's got some justification for links. So WCAG 2.1 says that it's not okay just to put like a URL that you would click on, but instead you need to describe what that URL is. So if it's like, here is a PDF for UDOIT trading, you would make that your hyperlink and not just put a link in afterwards. Same thing with a file. You wouldn't just upload the file that ends in .pdf, etc. You would actually change the heading. So we'll look at that. It checked my PDFs for anything that may or may not have images in it that are tagged. And when we say tagged, it would just be alt text for those images. It checked my Word docs and it thinks that there are two errors. And again, I'm gonna be very transparent that the PDFs and the Word docs and the PowerPoints, it tries to read them, but it is not amazing. So it's better to actually go into the Word doc and run the accessibility checker. And then it checks your videos to make sure they have captions. And so this is what we're looking at as these high impact things. Those are the must fixes. The medium impact, these are nice to fix. These would be great to fix. Page structure, table headers, this would mean that if I fix these, and there's not very many to fix, right? But if I fix these, then a screen reader can read them appropriately. If I don't, then the screen reader can still read stuff, but it may read things out of order. So I'm going to try to fix the medium impact as well. And then anything in low impact, if I've got something that would have been bad HTML, or if I would have had media that was embedded that would have auto played, or if it would have in some other way been skipped or omitted by a screen reader, it would have flagged that here, but I don't have any of those. So how do I fix it? From the UDOIT screen, I'm going to click on You Fix It. So it went from UDOIT to You Fix It. Now here's the course files. We'll get into that in just a second. So I'm going to click on You Fix It. Once I click on You Fix It, I'm going to be able to check on review here. So it's telling me that we have a page title of accessibility checkers, and then we have an issue of video captions appear to be automatically generated and they may contain errors. This is not necessarily a problem, but what it is telling us to do is that we need to check the closed captioning in this video to make sure that it actually is at least 85% correct and it's not just coming up with random words. And so I can review it. I can have it scan the video for me. Because I know that this video is correct and we actually did the closed captioning, I'm going to go down here where it says manual resolution, and then I'm going to confirm that I've actually checked that. I happen to know what this video is. I'm very familiar with it. So now that I know that I have fixed it, I can click on next issue. And now it's going to come up with somebody else's video. And so this time it'll actually allow me to scan the video. Now it says the issue still exists. So again, it scanned ASU's video and it said, hey, I think that these closed captions are automatically generated by YouTube. So somebody needs to check that. So now I have the option to watch the video with closed captions on and make sure that it is satisfactory. But again, I've seen this video front to back a million times and I know it's good. So to fix it, I attest that it has been fixed and I will go to the next issue. And so you see it doesn't take very long to do these. And even though it looks like, oh my gosh, I've got 6 pages, this is going to take me forever, it actually doesn't. Once you get into the work of the work, it's not that bad. Let's check on one here where it says potential use of color alone to communicate information. What this means is that it is bad practice to try to emphasize something by just highlighting it, or try to emphasize something by changing the color of the text. That isn't great because that assumes that all of your learners are able to see color, or it assumes that in some other way your learners will be able to pick that up. But a screen reader can't necessarily pick that up or differentiate. And so if you've got somebody that has a visual impairment, using just color is not best practice. And so we want to fix that. So right now I've got occur at the end of a learning activity has been highlighted. Now I can do a couple of things. I can remove the highlight, but I don't want to do that because this is important. At least we've deemed it as important for our learners. So I'm just going to also add a bold here and just make it bold. So not only now is it highlighted, but it will stand out that it is bolded. And when a screen reader picks it up, it will emphasize that it has been bold texted. So now it has been deemed as important in more ways than just using color. And so I will save it. And then on to the next issue. And I've got another one of those. And so I'm going to keep it consistent here. And I'm going to also bold that and save it. And same thing. So I'll keep going here. So again, we see that it doesn't take very long to fix these things. And these are all the
Dr.
same.
Greathouse,
Yeah, please.
um, going back to the last one, will any three of those options correct the problem? Is that
Yes.
what you're saying?
Yes, it's and you can pick from any of them and any of those would be acceptable. The only thing we don't want to do is underline because then a screen reader thinks that it is a potential hyperlink. So
Okay, thank
bold
you.
or italicized, good. Great question. Alternately, you can choose to bold and italicize and not use color. But again, it's whatever your preference is as long as you've got two things to signify that it's important. Great question, Chuck. Thank you. Um, So I'm going to pause there on those. Here is another one where it says a link has a nondescript text. And so let's go ahead and review that. This is an example of a bad file that has been uploaded. And I say bad because it doesn't tell the user what they're going to look at. And it does signify that it's .pdf. We don't want to do that. Instead, what we want to say is um, what the title might be of the document. And so in our case, it is using AI in education. I don't want to put .pdf because again, a screen reader is going to read that as AI or using AI in education .pdf. If we want to, we can say PDF file after the fact. And so that would signify that it is a PDF file in parentheses, but it's not actually trying to read that nonsense. Um, if it was going to link to an external site, then same way we could put in there links to external site, links to external site. You do not have to put links to external site or .pdf or .word. You don't have to put any of those. You just want to make sure that you are using the title of the document or some kind of context of what the document is rather than making it a .pdf, .word, etc. And so I will save that. And now it has changed the verbiage right in my Canvas page. I don't have to go page to page within Canvas. It is doing all of this and updating my Canvas pages live. This is just more videos again. So we have already fixed quite a few. These are mostly going to be the same thing. Here's one example where we have heading levels have been skipped. So I want to give you some context on these. We'll review it. This one doesn't show me the preview, so I can actually click on the link. What we did is this is where it's found in, and so it has scanned this page. I click on it, and it took me to the page. And again, if we read, it says HTML content for the issue is too large to fix, but then you do it. Great, great, great. But there are heading levels that have been skipped. What that means is that we did not go consecutively from heading 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. Instead, we might have just went heading 3, heading 3, heading 3, something of that nature. And so we can figure it out in a couple of ways here. I can click on edit. If there was something significant, the Vitruvian Man here would actually show up with a blue number that said, you've got some errors, but it is satisfied at this point because we didn't necessarily break the heading order rule. Yes, we started with heading 4, and that's what you do it is picking up. You do it as saying you should have started with heading 2 or heading 1, something of that nature. But instead, we were actually just using these vocabulary words. We were differentiating them from the definitions by using heading 4. And then we have paragraph. The next one is heading 4 and heading paragraph. And so really there's nothing wrong. A screen reader is going to read the heading 4 and then read the paragraph. It's going to read the heading 4, then the paragraph. So the screen reader is going to do what we want it to do. Where it would have been bad, if you will, is if we started with heading 4 and then here I had heading 3 for some reason or heading 2 for some reason. So if we would have scaled upwards because a screen reader naturally wants to read the higher heading level and then come back to a lower heading level. So this is actually going to go in correct order and be just fine. And so I'm going to close out of that page. I'm going to come back to UDOIT, and I'm going to note that this is actually just fine, and I don't need to change anything in here. So here it wants me to have a heading element here, but there's no need to. It's just an image. And at that, go back to this. This image is decorative. It doesn't have any context or anything that would be important or significant for learning. So if a student didn't see this image, they're not missing out on any content. They're not missing out on any learning. So it is fine to click on the old manual resolution and confirm. So I'm going to pause there because I've gone through a lot and covered a lot of different scenarios here. And so hopefully some of you are playing along with your UDOIT and finding some errors. And just want to pause for questions or thoughts or confusions, points of confusion on UDOIT. What do you have for me?
Hey, Justin, this is Deb.
Yeah.
This has been great so far. Thank you. But it scares me on each of these items. You have so much wisdom about what's really acceptable behind the scenes and what isn't. And I don't feel like I have that. So just like that example you just now gave, that title was okay, I wouldn't have known that. So where's the balance on knowing what's really acceptable and what isn't, because I'm not that familiar with screen readers, and I'm not feeling comfortable with that. That's it.
No, Deb, that's such a great question. Um, it's so, yeah. So I am a relative novice as well. The reason why I'm picking these things up is because I am um, attending so many workshops, trying to learn just as you all are. We're having these conversations and I get to ask these questions. And so then it led me to the WCAG 2.1 standards. And so I actually had to read them and digest them myself, and what those looked like. And that was scary. So what we tried to do is compile a short checklist. A checklist is a bad word, but kind of a cheat sheet um, for us. And this was really for myself and for Dr. Morgan as we were learning like what is important and what are we held accountable for. And so within here, and this is again within our SharePoint, we can see where we have like our headings, use heading 2 or 3, blah, blah, blah. When we get to the images, the URLs, etc. So there's a little bit of cheat sheet information there, but then down below, like quick tips also help us a little bit with what does that actually mean. It is daunting, especially when we are looking at this, especially for, the first time, some of us, or we haven't looked at it in years for some of us. And so when I guess my solution, which is not really a solution, but my suggestion to that very valid question is when I'm not quite sure, um, I am hopeful that you will all feel very empowered to reach out to myself or Dr. Morgan, and just say, hey, this is still in my UDOIT. What does this mean? Or can you look at my UDOIT and tell me what that means? Dr. Morgan and I can both get into your courses. We can go straight to UDOIT. We can look at what is there. We can rectify it for you. Like we can fix those things for you if you've still got a few left over that you're unsure about. We just need that communication that you want a second set of eyes. Because there is no, Deb's point is great. There is no like shortcut to how do I know all of this all at once and run this and fix this all at once. It's just, it's not that easy, unfortunately. And again, Dr. Morgan and myself are only this invested in it because of how many workshops we've attended over the past 5 months, trying to make sure that we were prepared to assist. So in short, all that just to say, please feel very, very comfortable asking myself or Dr. Morgan to have a peek or fix it, or just ask your question, shoot a team, shoot an email saying, here's my question, what does this mean, what do I do? And then we'll get you an answer within 24 hours, and probably much quicker than that. But great question, Deb. Thank you for that.
Dr. Greathouse, I want to mention a couple things that might be helpful, and then I saw some questions in the chat. So first off, so I did see in the chat that someone asked about if the Canvas shell is pre-made for you. There are disciplines where the lead faculty kind of share out a master shell, right? It depends on your discipline, and they should be letting you know if it's ready to go, or if they should be giving you some sense of, is what I shared out already set in the green per se, right, for this. And so be aware of that depending on what discipline you're in. I see Dean Arms is putting in the ENC 11, 1101, 1102, and ENC 0022 all fall into that category. In my area, it's history and psychology should be pretty good to go. I saw a comment about, do we have to get 100%? And I would say that my thought on that is, I don't think we're going to throw out a number like that says everyone needs to get to 100%. I have not heard anything in meetings that's what we're doing yet, and Dr. Greathouse can verify that or back that up, unless he's heard different. In my mind, if you're in the green equals go, green equals good. So get it as high as you can, but focus on those ones, as he showed you, that it says are bigger issues, right? If you can't get every little tiny thing addressed, make sure you have all the major problems out of the way. So that's kind of my 2 cents I'll add there.
I would echo those sentiments, but also include one of the things I got at a workshop about 4 months ago that I keep in my back pocket is accessibility is an iterative process. So it's not a set it and forget it deal. It's something that we continue to improve upon, and we continue to try to make all of our content more accessible all the time. And so yes, green is good. We aim for green. We want to aim for 100%. It may not all happen by, April 24th, but we want to hit those high impact areas because those are the things that are affecting the most of our students. And then work our way down from there. If we do get a standardized shell, ideally it has been checked, but, and I'm going to say this with a caveat because I teach for 3 institutions, when I get a shell from another institution that I work for, a university that I work for, I'm not allowed to make changes to the shell, but I absolutely check the shell for accessibility issues, because at the end of the day, I am the instructor, and so I am held responsible for the content that is placed in that shell. And so if a student fails my class and they say, well, you put all these videos or you put these documents in there that my screen reader couldn't read, ultimately they're right. I was their teacher. They were counting on me to have accessible content. And so I don't want to put myself in any kind of weird situation. So I do run accessibility checkers on all PDFs and Word docs and slide decks for every institution that I serve. Because at the end of the day, it is my name attached to the course. The student doesn't know that the university provides me the shell. The student doesn't know that. They know that I'm their teacher, and they expected me to deliver rigorous content, but also accessible content. So I don't know if that's necessarily an answer, but even if I'm given a shell as a practitioner, I absolutely check the materials because my name is attached to it, at least for those 25 students that I have.
Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay, good. I see at the top of your screen it says recording. So I'm the type of guy I like to sit down and take my time and go over each and every word that you say. Is there any way that you could email me a link that could connect me to the recording so I could go through it at my own leisure?
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be posted to our YouTube channel, and I'll show you that in just a second here.
Okay.
You bet.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for asking that. Another question that was brought up in the chat was alt text generation for images. So I don't want to overspeak or overpromise. So a couple of things here I'm going to include, and I'm going to add a caveat. The first one here is I just put a link in here. There is an image accessibility generator that ASU has put together. They put together their own software program and used an AI agent. But you can upload an image or something of that nature there, and it will try to read your image. It'll use AI to read your image and then provide some potential alt text for you. And so that is one way that you can do that. In that SharePoint, this form, there is some quick tips. Basically, when you create alt text, you want to use less than 125 characters, and you don't want to start it with image of or color image of. They used to tell us to do that, but we don't do that anymore. Now it's just what is the learner supposed to get out of this image? Why is this image here? And if there's content in that image that the user needs in order to learn something, then just say that in the 125 characters. If it's just purely decorative to make your course page look prettier, then just mark it as decorative. But what is the learner supposed to get out of that image? Why is it there? So that's really what you want to add when you're looking at alt text. There was the question about images that are in assessments. And this gets tricky, and this is where I would invite a deeper conversation with myself or Dr. Morgan or your supervisor, because there are instances where we use assessment and the image is supposed to be what is being assessed. I can remember taking an art history class eons ago, and I would need to know that that was Marcus Aurelius, and those kind of things just by looking at the image. And so that is a little bit deeper conversation about how to adjust or have alternate assignments for students that would need that kind of accessibility, because you may have a visually impaired student that takes your art history course, and we need to be accommodating of that scenario. So there's not a one-stop shop or quick fix there when images are what is supposed to be assessed, but we can certainly assist with building an alternate form of assessment for those students when you do encounter them. But it's great to have it before you encounter them, so that when your class starts and you find out you've got a student with a visual impairment, that you're already ready to go. So just know that Department of Teaching and Learning, myself, Dr. Morgan, we are more than happy to help you write those and have that test bank ready. Great questions, super relevant questions. The deadline for accessibility, the Department of Education has set the deadline for April the 24th, 2026. So we are 3 months away still. So that's why we've been talking about it since August. And so I know that you're tired of my emails, and I apologize for that, but we wanted to make sure that each of us has the knowledge and the know-how. The other part going back to the image generation, the alt text for images, I wanted to add on the caveat that it's not just our courses, right? This is something that if it's a public facing or user facing, I should say user facing digital medium, it needs to be accessible. And that means all internal and external public facing documents, slide decks, web pages. And so, yes, as instructors, we are working diligently to make sure that our content is accessible for many reasons. Yes, the legal compliance, but just because it's also really good teaching. But that there's also the nuance of anything on our SharePoint, anything on our website, any documents that are shared digitally to us as employees all have to be accessible. And then similarly, our website, any documents that are on the website for download or for viewing to the general public also have to be accessible. So that side of the house of the college has a huge heavy lift as well. And so they are currently looking and evaluating some tools that will harness AI to scan PDFs and then tag the PDFs, meaning give them alt text where needed, scan slide decks and try to tag the slide decks as well. I am letting you know that with the caveat that there is no tool that has been selected yet, and there is no contract to purchase said tool yet. And so that may not come in time. I have less knowledge about that side of the house than I do ours. And so what I would suggest is that we run UDOIT. We fix on our pages and our videos what can be fixed on our pages and our videos, and then use the tools that are built into PowerPoint and in Word to evaluate each of those documents. If we find that our slide decks are in need of an awful lot of updating, we may start that process, but not necessarily spend a ton of time on it until we find out if the college is going to invest in a tool, and if so, which one. Because if they invest in it for that side of the house, that means we'll also get access to it as well. So I'm just adding that caveat to that. Go for green, and then when it gets into some of the more burdensome heavy loads, yes, partner with us here at DTL, and we're going to do what we can to help fix it for you and with you. But certainly, for example, art history, there may be slide decks that have 300 images that need alt text. And I've taught chemistry for us, and I've received publisher materials, and I check the PowerPoints from the publisher, and they don't have alt text, which means I am now providing for my students, here's this PowerPoint and slide deck that is not accessible. So those are also conversations to have. So just because the publisher has provided it doesn't mean that they're providing you something that is accessible. So that's something we want to check. Let's see. Francesca, great question. We want to fix everything. So even if students have already viewed it and it's a past module, go back and fix it. Just because they may review it again. Anything that we can fix and rectify at this point, we want to do that. And then certainly if you have a master shell, you want to make sure that you are using a master shell. Usually we have lead faculty that provide those for us, and they'll be quite cognizant of this already. But anything that you're going to put in front of students for the duration of the semester, you want to make sure it is compliant with Section 508, Title II. These are really good questions and such a great conversation. CGS 1100 teaches it. Thanks, Chuck. It's super important to do that. Absolutely. Okay, I have spent a lot of time yapping, and I hate being a yapper, and so I apologize, but these are really great questions that are, again, building our collective efficacy. So I want to add one more thing here, and you've probably seen it when I've sent out Adjunct Academy emails. Again, those are targeted just for us as adjuncts. They're not all the nice to know stuff. They are the we need to know this stuff, and so that's what I'm trying to put in front of us. The Department of Teaching and Learning does have a YouTube channel at this point. And so we've got various things already positioned on there. We have a couple of Adjunct Academy workshops that we've had. If you have never used Notebook LM, highly encourage you to do so, because it is fascinating what it can do for you as an instructional designer, as a facilitator, but it's also great for your students. Like, it allows them to build flashcards and have an interactive podcast. It'll build a short video for them to watch that reviews content. It's fantastic. This one is 20 minutes. You'll learn how to use Notebook LM. What we just talked about in short, very short form, 9 minutes, how to use UDOIT to scan your Canvas course and then fix those things. So there's a 9-minute version of this conversation already up there. We've got some other things like some Canvasisms if you want to use rubrics in Canvas and you don't yet. So if you want to add rubrics to any of your tasks and assignments, you can use those rubrics to score. So it makes your scoring very objective rather than subjective. We have some other things that are in here as well, but I want to share this with you because this is where this meeting is going to end up living, is our Department of Teaching and Learning YouTube channel. And again, when you watch these videos, you can watch them on 2 times speed. So your 9-minute tutorial can become a 4.5-minute tutorial. It's pretty fantastic. Thank you, Dean Arms, Notebook LM. I know, Deb, you're a fanatic of Notebook LM, just like I am as well. It's pretty great. So that video might be worth watching for some of you. Great way to dabble in AI. You love it too. Yep. So I want to open the floor to any conversation, questions, ideas, barriers, anything that we want to chat about. I want to be very respectful of your time, but I want to absolutely open the floor to you all. This conversation is supposed to be for us, by us. So what have you all got? Absolute crickets. Great. I used my teacher wait time. Okay, so again, I'm going to be as respectful as I can of your time. You've seen my email. Oh, sorry, Dean Weber, go ahead.
Let me just take the opportunity while we have a bunch of adjuncts here to remind them that you should have seen an email from the registrar's office today that initial attendance, we're in that time frame. I believe it's due Tuesday before noon, but don't quote me. Yeah, so make sure that you do that. That's a very important task, obviously, but yeah.
Pam, sorry, go ahead. Miss Manning, go ahead.
Okay, there we are. So I wanted a little clarification on what you mean by the course being in all green. I know it's that bar, but did you want it all green? Because I noticed yours was green and a little red, a little yellow.
Yeah, so that's a great point for emphasis and clarification here. What we mean is that if my course would have only been like 50 or 60 or 70%, 80%, it would have stopped here. We want to get it as green as possible. So this bar starts moving more and more to the green side, the higher my score gets. So we want to be in the green zone. Really, it's like 90% and above. Eventually, we want our course to be at 100%, but as we are sticking it right in front of students, we want to be in green. So I hope that clarifies. We're not necessarily looking for a number, but we want to fix all of the high impact issues and then go from there. And I think Dean Clark said that he ran one of his science courses and it started out at like 83% and said he had 100 and something issues to fix. And he said it took him about an hour, but now he's at 100%. So he felt like it was well worth the hour because now he's quite confident that anything in front of his students is accessible for them.
Okay, can I ask one more question?
Absolutely.
So if we link to an outside website, let's say it's OWL at Purdue, is there any way for us to know whether that website is compliant?
Not off of our tools that we use. A couple of things is if they are a public institution, meaning they're Purdue, they're held to the same exact standards as we are, and so they are under the same legal obligations as we are. If it is a government website, it is also under the same, meaning state as well. It's also under the same legal obligations that we are. And so if you are using something that is scholarly like that from another educational institution or from a government site, chances are you're looking at something that is accessible. One point of emphasis there would be some of us use OpenStax. We use OER. So if you use OpenStax or LibreText, they have a disclaimer right now that they are working diligently to have all of their slide decks and their resources meet those accessibility standards as well prior to the deadline. So everybody is all hands on decks. But that's a super great question, and it might be worth taking a gander at the websites that we link out to. And it's the same thing we're looking for, though, the color contrast and the the alt text on images and those kind of things. But yeah, my suggestion for the time being is if it is a educational institution or a government institution, you're going to have great success there.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other thoughts, questions that we can help answer today as a group? All right. No sense in hanging out just to hang out. So I'm going to stay on in case anybody was like, I have a question, but I don't really want to ask it in front of everybody. But otherwise, I will send this email out once I get it edited and published on YouTube. I want you to feel very comfortable asking whatever questions you have that come up between now and April and beyond. Just know that you are supported and you have resources. And so I'm here to help the best that I can. And I know Dr. Morgan is as well. So it's great to see everybody. Thank you for joining us this spring.